Hello guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're doing a video that we've done for the last 2 years I believe, and that is of course Thermapen have launched their BBQ Brave campaign. Now for those that don't know, Thermapen is the best instant read thermometer on the market, so they got in touch, wanted to know if I wanted to get involved with this year's BBQ Brave campaign. And the good thing about the campaign is you can do it every year because they have different themes every year. So last year we did BBQ Brave with burgers, where we made up 3 different kinds of burgers. This year they are going above and beyond. Well, it's all about moving forward, should we say. So last year we covered the basics, burgers, getting them perfect. This year they're saying to be bold and push your barbecue forward. And the great thing is that that means many different things to many people. And they maybe give the example of like big briskets and pulled porks and things like that. And a lot of you know I am not all about the big 18-hour brisket cooks on this channel. I don't tend to do them that often. I used to do them and then I kind of grew out of it, should we say. So now I tend to focus on other things, more everyday food, and just trying stuff with different flavors. So for my version of it, I thought, right, we're moving beyond burgers, which is what we done last year. We're trying to push things forward a little bit. So I thought it might be quite good to do a cook that has all similar ingredients that you would use for a burger, but maybe thinking about it a little bit of a different way. So rather than doing a burger cook, we are going to be doing beef koftas with flatbreads, a little bit of a salsa in there, a little bit of a salad in them. Kind of similar ingredients, not an overly complicated cook, but it's taking those ingredients that you would use every day and doing something a little bit different with them and challenging yourself to try different flavors, pushing yourself beyond the flavors you're used to cooking with. So we're going to be using the Thermapen throughout. Thanks for sponsoring the video, Thermapen. We'll talk a little bit more about this later on. Plus we also have a giveaway at the end of the video. But let's talk about the koftas. So there's a few elements going into this. We're going to do the beef koftas. We're going to get our own seasoning into them. We're going to grill them off on the barbecue. We are doing our own flatbreads as well. We're going to make up a little bit of a, I don't know if I call it a salsa or relish, or it's like a cooked down relish salsa thing. We'll do that as well. And then we're also serving that with a minted yogurt. So that's gonna give us a nice little freshness in there to go against the salsa and the koftas, the salsa slash relish thing. So the first thing you want to do is prepare the actual yogurt itself, because you want to give this some time to chill out and let the flavors kind of develop in it. Whenever you make it first off, the flavors are there, but they're not quite mingled together. So you want to let this chill out for a little while. So if you can do this the morning of the cook or the night before and keep it in the fridge, it'll work out even better. So the base of it is around a cup of Greek yogurt. Then into that we're going with about a tablespoon of lemon juice. There's also a couple of cloves of garlic, some cumin, a little bit of cayenne pepper, and then mint. So you can either use fresh mint, in which case you probably want to go with around about a 1/4 cup of minced down mint leaves. I couldn't get fresh mint for this, so I have went with dried mint. So we went for around 3 tablespoons of dried mint, which gives you that same flavor. The fresh mint is really nice through it, so if you can get it, go with that. So that is our minted yogurt. And once you have that all made up, like I say, put it into the fridge, let the flavors develop a little bit in it for a while before we want to put it onto the cook. If you make this fresh, still nice, but it works better if you give it some time to develop. So you can leave that to the side. The next thing we need to talk about then is the actual koftas themselves. So here I have some regular mince ground chuck, same thing you would make burgers from. And if you have burgers in the house, you can mash them up and make this recipe with them. So like I say, it's a good thing of taking a regular thing we cook all the time and doing something completely different with it. This is our little seasoning mix. So I'll leave a link in the description to the article on the Thermapen website where you can grab the recipe for all this stuff. But there's some nice flavors in here. There's a bit of smoked paprika, there's cumin, there's ground coriander in there, salt, pepper, garlic, onions, But this is what's going to add flavour to the koftas themselves. So if I grab myself a glove, I'll take my lid off, this doesn't all blow away. The wind has picked up quite a lot since I hit the record button. So we'll spread out the mince and then just sprinkle our seasonings over the top. Again, the recipe should give you enough to make, it's about maybe 600-700 grams of mince. And that seasoning should be enough then to completely coat that and get it mixed through. So just get in with your hand, start pressing everything together, because you want to make sure it's well incorporated. So whenever we form these, you aren't getting some of the koftas that don't have a lot of seasoning in them and some are maybe over seasoned. If this is well spread throughout the mixture, this should all be perfect. So that's our kofta mixture all made up. It is well incorporated through it. I can't see any bits of mince there that don't have sort of seasonings mixed through them. There's a slight colour change on it from the paprika, so it's easy to spot the bits that don't have any. Now all we need to do is form them into koftas. So for kofta, you can cook them on skewers, but I'm going to try and keep it simple, and we're just going to form them into little patty kind of things. They're not burgers, they're still kofta. This way they just make them a little bit easier to move about on the barbecue. So I'm not going to weigh them, I'm just going to grab a small handful and form them into these little like skinny long burgers. Is that what you call it? And the idea is these are going to cook, and then we'll put a couple of these inside our flatbreads and along with everything else that we're doing today. So they're a nice handy little thing to make. And if you do them this way, then you don't have that risk of them falling apart and falling off the skewers. They should hold together a little bit better. Yeah, I think those all look good. Good size. Some are a little bit larger than others, but that doesn't really matter. We can keep an eye on them. We'll know whenever they're cooked because obviously the Thermapen is going to tell us. Yeah, so that's our kofta ready. We're going to put them into the fridge, let them chill out for a little while. They'll start to sort of solidify again, handling them. The fats can heat up a little bit in the mince and they go a little bit gooey. So we want to make sure they're nice and firm. So I will run in, pop them into the fridge. Then we will talk about what is going into our salsa slash relish thing. Okay, now the kofta are out of the way, we can do the little bit of prep work we need to do for our salsa. And I'll grab a knife. There's not a lot goes into it, but by cooking it down, it's going to give it a nice little soft flavour to it, and it should go well with the koftas inside the flatbreads. So we have around 350 grams of these little like plum cherry tomatoes. We have 1 red pepper, 1 shallot, 1 chili, green chili. Use whatever you want. If you have a favourite, go for it. These are just sort of regular mixed chilies from the supermarket. Then we have a little bit of parsley and coriander. So those are going to go in at the end. We don't really need to do a lot with those. For the tomatoes, the only thing you really need to do is cut them in half. It's just going to help them cook down a little bit quicker. So if you cut them, whenever we put them in, start cooking them down, they're going to release their flavour, soften down and form that sort of salsa. We then need to finely dice the pepper as well. So you can go ahead and remove the seeds from it. Slice down the middle. Again, we want to keep this quite small. So what I would do is go into battens first and then just go into small cubes. So that's a nice size, shouldn't take too long to soften down once we get them into the pan. So you can go ahead and do that for the rest of your pepper. The shallot then, what I'm going to do is actually put it into thin slices so that we end up with these little like shallot rings. They'll be nice and soft, but they'll still give the flavour in there and they'll not just disappear into the sauce. There'll still be some kind of texture in it. And the last thing we need to prepare is our chili. Chili, we're going fine again. So take it off, take the seeds out, leave them in, whatever's your preference. And then just cut it into nice, fine little chunks. just so we're getting a little bit of the heat, a little bit of the flavour, but we're not getting big chunks of chili through it. So I'll go ahead, I'll prep all this stuff, and then I pretty much think we're ready to cook. Okay, so we have the Kamado Joe fired up. We're going direct grilling with this, so the coals are spread across the entire cooking grate, just to give us plenty of area to do the flatbreads, the kofta, and then also to get a skillet on there. Speaking of the skillet, I'm gonna pop the lid. We'll grab one of our large skillets and stick it on there just to preheat. We don't want to get it too hot. We want this to sort of slowly break down the tomatoes. I'm going to put a little drizzle of oil in. You don't need a lot. I'll close the lid, let that heat for a few minutes while we talk about the flatbreads. So the dough is a pretty simple mix. It's just strong bread flour, yeast, salt, and tepid water. Measurements will be in the recipe for it. The only key thing to remember is the temperature of the water to get the yeast to activate. So as another thing the Thermapen is handy for, I've struggled in the past by having the water either too cold or a little bit too hot. So the yeast doesn't really rise or activate properly. I have found that around 43 to 45 degrees C is the ideal temperature for the water, just to get a nice rise on the dough. So again, use your Thermapen and use it to check the temperature of the water. It's not just for meat, it is handy for loads of other things. So once you've made up your dough, knead it for around 10 minutes, then cover it over with cling film and allow it to rise for maybe around an hour. It should pretty much double in size. The dough is a nice one to work with. It's not too sticky, so once you get it tipped out onto a flour chopping board, just rip it into sort of fist-sized chunks and go at it with a rolling pin to roll them out. So I've gone ahead, these ones made up. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 flatbreads, which is more than enough to do my family. So it's a good recipe mix, a nice easy one to work with. So I think we're pretty much ready to start cooking. I'm going to pop the lid. This skillet shouldn't be too hot just yet. It will have started to heat a little, but we're going to go in first with those tomatoes. And we're going to keep moving them about a little bit. Again, the skillet isn't that hot at the minute, so it's not really frying them off, but they should start to bubble and release their moisture and start to break down. So we'll let them go for a little bit first before we go in with the other ingredients. All right, you can see tomatoes have started to soften down nicely. They have released a lot of their moisture. So now we're going to go in with our peppers and our green chili. Let's give that all a mix around to start softening down into the tomatoes. I'll give that a couple more minutes before we add the shallots, but we can now get our kofta on and get them started off. So we're just going straight onto the cooking grates with them. Cooking grates have been lightly oiled, so hopefully we shouldn't have too many problems with sticking, hopefully. We'll put them on, let them get a nice sear on one side, and then we'll toss them over. Then we're going to start checking for temperatures. So after a minute or so, we can get our shallots into that salsa / relish, whatever we're calling it. We'll start mixing those through to let them soften down. Again, as they soften, they will start to break out into their own individual rings. Koftas are bubbling away nicely. I'm starting to get excited about this one. So I think our salsa is pretty much there. A lot of that moisture is cooked out of it, but it's not all the way down. So the last thing I want to do is just give it a quick seasoning with a bit of salt and pepper, and then go in with a little bit of chopped parsley and chopped coriander. Just a small handful of each. Just mix that through at the last minute, and the sort of residual heat inside the salsa will wilt it down a little bit and release the flavours. So we'll go ahead and lift that off, leave it in the skillet, it'll continue to stay warm. So if we do a quick check on the kofta, see we're not quite there yet. We're still sitting sort of high 50s, so they're not really going to take that long to finish off, but that should give us enough time to get our flatbreads going. So just drop them straight onto the grate. Nice hot barbecue underneath them, so they shouldn't take too long. Just keep an eye on them. First one's usually a burner until you get used to how hot the barbecue is. And we're just going to keep an eye on those kofta. Again, we're cooking to temperature, not time. They might look cooked now, but we know they're not cooked on the inside yet, so we need to give them a few minutes. Once you see the bubbles appearing, give them a flip over. First one might not actually be too bad. We've got a nice puff going on in the flatbreads. That is what you're looking for. Yeah, so we're sitting 71, 72 on those. So I will grab the cutting board here and we'll move them across as they're ready. So our kofta are all off, all done to temperature. Still nice and juicy inside. I'm going to finish off the flatbreads and then we will get it all put together, and then the only thing left to do is to dive in and have a taste. Okay, took far too many photos of this stuff. Let's make one up. So we'll start with our flatbread. Going to go on with a little bit of these sort of like baby gem lettuce, just for a little bit of crunch on the bottom. A few leaves of parsley, coriander. Kind of like mixing herbs through the salad. I know we have the flavors in there already, but something just about the fresh leaves that are awesome. Then we're going to go with a couple of our kofta. Plop them on. Plop. That's not a very Instagrammy word, is it? But they smell amazing. Then I'll take a little bit of our salsa, put it down over. Okay, then last we have our minted yogurt. I'll just drizzle a little bit over. That'll be a nice cool flavour. So we have our one to try. Give me 2 seconds, I will throw all this into the house for the family to start eating. Then I'll come back out, we'll give it a try, and I want to talk to you about the giveaway we're doing. All right, let's see if we can get this thing lifted and give it a try. To rearrange my koftas into the middle. It's going to be a big bite. I'm sure we can manage it. So good. Yeah. With the kofta, for such a simple addition of just a few spices to what you would normally make burgers from, they really do go to the next level. Nice little punchy heat in there. I think that's probably coming from that salsa. A little bits of green chili going through it. There is chili flakes in the mix for the kofta. Nice crunch off the lettuce. Then you have the minted yogurt. Again, I'm not one of those guys that eats like mint sauce with lamb or anything. I'm not usually a fan of mint, but whenever it's nice and cool with something like this here, it's quite rich. Especially the kofta, they're so rich. No, I am a huge fan of that. And it's not that hard to do either. So if you have mastered the basics of burgers, hot dogs, steaks, things like that, the reason I wanted to do this video was to convince you to take some of the ingredients you would usually put into those. So we have the burger meat, which is just minced technically. We have lettuce, we have tomato, we have shallot. You can do it with onion. We have some form of bread, usually a burger bun, but we've swapped that out for Flatbreads. But it's still good grub you can pick up in your hands and eat, but there is tons more flavour in there than there would be in your average burger. So I highly recommend you give it a try. I want to see what you do with it. Feel free to tweak things around as you want. As I said, the link will be in the description box below to grab the recipe off the Thermapen website. But there is one more thing we need to talk about, then I'm going to go and finish this off, and that is our BBQ Brave giveaway. So as always, to promote good barbecue, Thermapen come up with these BBQ Brave boxes, and they are packed with all sorts of goodies. So of course there is a Thermapen Professional in there. No BBQ Brave box would be complete without one. So you too can take your cooking to the next level by cooking to temperature and not time. It is the one thing that will change your cooking. I have said it over and over again, but having the confidence to cook anything, as long as you know what temperature it needs to cook to, and then you know this will give you a perfect accurate reading fast to the inside of your meat. You know exactly what's going on in there, so you know it's safe, no second guessing. So that's in there. There are some other bits and pieces from Thermapen, and then this year they actually have a few rubs and sauces from Angus and Oink, and there's also a voucher then for the Ethical Butcher. So if you want to get your hands on this, head over to my Instagram page and it will have details on what you need to do to get your hands on it. Just look for the post for this video. I'll stick a link down in the description over to my Instagram profile, but all the details will be there if you want to get your hands on it, and hopefully I'll be sending it out to one of you guys and you can use it to your heart's content this summer and take your barbecue up a level. With all that said, huge thanks to Thermapen for getting me involved again this year. Always love doing the videos for the guys, and they always come up with such good ideas for their campaigns, and this one is no exception. So there's been a nice progression going from burgers through to something like this. Who knows what we're going to do next year, as long as it's not seafood. Huge thanks for watching the video. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys in the next video.